Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. Isaiah 54:10. What do you do when everything you depend on falls apart? Where do you turn when your security collapses? When mountains crumble, then what? For my family and me, the crumbling was both literal and figurative. I'm not sure how you lost your beloved, but when the one you depend on as your rock and stability dies, the devastation sounds a lot like, no, 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 this can't be happening. Mountains don't crumble. Even though I held on to that promise of unshakable peace and unfailing love in Isaiah 54:10, I also wrestled with it. It was hard to trust God's love wasn't failing me when everything else was failing me. It was hard to trust God's stability when everything else was falling apart. After years of chronic autoimmune disease, insomnia, and postpartum depression, my husband and I didn't think I would pull through. Battling for my life taught us to fast, pray, and weep together. We learned to operate in heaven on earth. God healed me, and I felt whole for the first time in my life. Shortly after that miracle, my husband Dan and I navigated our final military move back to the Colorado mountains, where we first met and then married. We had 1 year left until his retirement, and big dreams that were finally coming true. Everyone told us this would be our long-awaited season of rest. We believed that with all of our hearts. Dan always came alive the minute we crossed over the state line to Colorado on our vacations, and especially when we moved back. That big grin wouldn't leave his face, even when the mountains were not yet in sight. He met with the Lord best on the mountain. An adventurer and meticulous planner, Dan set a goal to hike all 53 of Colorado's 14ers, mountains over 14,000 feet high. I loved his company, so it was hard for me to let him go on all those hikes until I saw how much they refueled his heart. He always returned to us with renewed compassion and love for us, and for life. The month after we moved back, Dan and I went hiking with our little girls. Cactus blossomed and wildflowers splattered joy over the desert canvas. I had never seen anything like it in the rocky terrain of Colorado. After years of physical frailty, suffering, and illness, I was amazed that I could finally say to my husband, "Honey, I'm alive, and I'm hiking with you." I got my life back right before Dan lost his. Grief on the heels of joy. For over a decade of travels and intense responsibilities with the military, my prayer for my husband had been that God would hide and cover him in the blood of Christ. He went missing and died in a mountain range that translates to the blood of Christ, the sangre de Christos. This feels both tragically ironic and piercingly redemptive. Dan was more like Jesus than anyone I've ever known. A kind and gentle leader who loved in self-sacrificing ways every day. He served widows in practical ways. He spiritually adopted many fatherless into our home and family. Dan was also full of adventure.